Welcome back to Money Matters. I'm Emily Johnson, founder of Polaris Capital Advisors. In the beginning of this show, we were talking about trust, and I began the show by stating that I firmly believe that everyone can benefit from quality financial advice and that everyone needs a financial advisor, not just individuals with a greater net worth than $500,000 and all the other examples that you hear on TV. Everyone can benefit from quality financial advice, and that is what we are trying to provide for you here. So at the beginning of the show, we talked specifically about trust, and we created an equation of what trust actually is or how to break it down, specifically when you might be interviewing a financial advisor or any trusted advisor, to give you a framework for how you might assess that individual and the trust relationship that you're able to develop with them, hopefully. And I want to take it one step further. So why is trust important? Is it important because you like going in their office and sitting down with them and chatting about your family and their family and just it's a great hour and a half that you spend? Or is trust important because of something else? In my experience, in my opinion, the value of trust, of course, it's across the board and it is 100% correlated with my ability to do my job well. But the reason it's 100% correlated is because it allows my clients to tune out all the white noise that is out there in the world and focus specifically on their goals and how to achieve them. So everyone's financial situation is different, and yet they're all the same. But when you're talking to one individual about their financial situation, it has to be 100% about them. And if they're getting bombarded by noise from specific investments, they should focus on this specific investment or this ETF or this annuity or this life insurance policy. They're missing the point that they actually need to focus on them and their goals. Sometimes you'll hear the phrase goal-oriented planning. That's exactly what that is. That means looking at your objectives and creating a plan that is targeted towards that. It's no different than losing weight, getting in shape, creating a plan for yourself in any other aspect of your life. This is the exact same, and you have to be able to trim the fat and tune out all the white noise. It doesn't matter that Trump and Hillary Clinton don't get along. It doesn't matter that whatever other white noise it is that you're hearing every single morning. I find it exhausting. I mean, I have CNBC on in my office every single day, and I literally have it on mute half the time. And that is because I have to tune out that white noise too. I like having it on so that I'm aware of what's going on, so that I'm aware when my clients call and they're concerned about something that I know what that is that they're concerned about. But it's still white noise. The market goes up 500 points and down 500 points in a day. Is that an interesting fact? Sure it is. It's great at a cocktail party to say the market moved 1,000 points today, intraday. Very interesting. Does that really matter to you if you're looking at your kid who's going to college next year and you know that you have to save another 20 grand to get them there? It does a little bit, but not really. What's it going to do? So those types of facts are interesting if you like following the financial markets, but when you're really looking at your financial plan, you have to drown that out and create a plan that is driven specifically towards your objectives. And what does that mean? It means, number one, you have to trust your financial advisor to put a plan in place that is tied to your risk tolerance, your goals and your risk tolerance. If you have a plan that doesn't tie to your degree of risk, which I call the sleep at night factor, there is no chance you're sticking to that plan. We can put the most beautiful plan in place. We'll have the nice pie chart with all the beautiful colors, and then the market dips 5% because something happens in China with food prices, and you panic and you call me and you say, we're going to cash. And I try to talk you out of it and I just can't, because at that point we've obviously created a plan that is not tied to your risk tolerance. And that's okay. What that means is we need to assess your risk again. And you need to be honest about your risk. So what are the things that we need to think about specifically with risk? And I know I have a beautiful chart here behind me that I will get into in 1 second so that we can really nail it with some fabulous visuals. But what's important about risk? Number one, know your number. That number can take a lot of different forms. It might be what's your okay factor if we go back through 2009, 2010, and your portfolio as it stands right now is going to go down 30%. Are you okay with that? Would you actually still be able to sleep at night, or would you absolutely go to cash, go hide the money under your mattress and sell your house? You know, what would you do if that happened? If the answer is you would actually do those things, then you need to dial that back, and you can dial that back in lots of ways. That's what you have a financial advisor for. So know your number. Know your stick-to-itness factor. If you're not able to stick to whatever plan it is with that risk number, dial it back. If you're not able to achieve your goals with dialing it back, then you need to be comfortable with either, say, retiring later or changing your goals. These are all parts of the conversation that you need to have with your financial advisor, and they're all okay. So it's having a low risk tolerance or a high risk tolerance is not good or bad in a vacuum. It's perfectly fine. It's how it applies to you and your financial plan. And in a lot of cases, it's how it applies to your marriage. You'll actually see a husband and wife that have very, very different risk tolerances. That can make for a very unhappy home. And I've had plenty of clients that will have meetings separately because we literally can't discuss their finances together. And it's not on the way to divorce court, it's just that we need to be able to have those conversations where they each feel comfortable discussing their comfort levels, their objectives, and then we try to find a way to meet in the middle with their finances. I know this probably doesn't sound all that exciting, but this is real life issues, and it really happens. So know your number, know that you're going to be able to stick with it. Those are the two biggest aspects when it comes to risk, and be willing to talk about this with your financial advisor. There are measures to actually assess these things. It's not just a up in the sky type assessment. There's actually quantification for this. So if you feel more comfortable with technical aspects or measures of risk, you can get that. So what does this matter? The stick-to-itness factor. This is what is called the Dalbar study. And what this shows us is about 20 years worth of history. And it shows the difference between investor returns and investment returns. So here in blue, we have the S&P 500 returns for a specific year, starting in 1996, I believe. And then we have the average equity investor fund returns. That would be man on the street, woman on the street. So here we have, you can see, the investment returns, and I don't want to get out of my screen, the investment returns significantly higher than our investor returns. Why is that? Is it because they were invested in the totally wrong thing or they had a bad financial advisor? No, it's because they weren't able to stick to it. So they didn't actually assess their risk. There's lots of other studies I'm sure that you've seen, if you're a follower of this, that show people's response, the fight or flight response, there's all kinds of different studies and different effects in the markets. But what this basically says is if things start going negatively, you get out of the market, and therefore when you get back in, the markets may have gone down, they may have gone back up again. You just don't know. I mean, market timing is definitely an imperfect science, and it is not one that I advocate for, especially if you're going to be planning for long-term goals. If you like speculation, go for it. But if you're actually looking to plan over a 20-year time horizon, wouldn't you rather have the blue returns than the red returns? And that's actually what we plan for. So if I'm making a plan for you that says we need to expect X percent return for the next 15 years to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve, then I need to be looking at these numbers. I need to know that you're not going to jump ship whenever we have a 5% or a 10% correction. I need to know that the plan I put together for you is one that you feel comfortable with, that the risk is something that you're comfortable with. And if you're not comfortable with that, then it might mean that we need to dial back what our expectations are. It might mean that we take this blue down a little bit, that our expectations are actually more like this. But if that's going to keep you in the game, then I can make a plan for you that makes a lot more sense than if I'm making a plan that says, well, they're going to be comfortable achieving this and the risk that goes with it, but then they end up down here. So we need to get together and make a plan that makes sense for your risk tolerance. So this gets back to the trust aspect of, do you trust the financial advisor that you have enough to be able to communicate with them at that level of intimacy and with that confidence that they actually have a plan and can create a plan that will help you achieve your goals and your needs. So I was actually going to draw a couple of my famous circles. For those of you that have seen this show in the past, I've drawn a few of these circles before, and I will kind of nail it a little bit quickly here. The point of this whole thing is, if we're putting together a plan, we have short-term money, medium-term money, and long-term money, and we have certain elements of risk that are attached to each one of these circles, and I will definitely get into this more in future shows. But if you're putting together this plan and you have a low risk tolerance, it might mean that you actually need to have more funds in your short and medium term funds. It might not be the sexiest thing in the world. It might have a 4% yield when you actually walk in your financial advisor's office and you say, I'm looking for an average of 8 to 10% a year. But if your gut tells you that you can only handle 4%, then you probably need to stick more with the 4% yield, because that is where you're actually going to be able to create a plan that you'll stick with over the long term to help you achieve your goals. So that is our brief discussion of trust as it relates to your financial plan, as it relates to your sleep at night factor, which is also called risk. And I hope that this has been helpful. Again, I believe that everybody can benefit from quality financial advice. I hope that you found this to be helpful. Please contact me with any comments, questions, concerns, issues. I love hearing from you. And until next week, this has been Money Matters.